Okay, good morning, Olivia. It's good to see you again. Obviously, we're going to have a look at the objectives which you set for yourself at the beginning of the year. First objective, as you know, was associated with the whole area of your subject and your own schemes of work in particular, and then your own lesson plans. And the objective that we set was in relation to numeracy. So could you just let me know how you've managed to incorporate numeracy into your schemes of work so far?
For our department, the most important thing was that opportunities to use mathematics should arise naturally out of the work we were doing. We felt that if they had to be artificially manufactured, then there was less chance of them being sustained as they would be seen as well by the department.
Yeah. That was important, and actually the lesson that I observed, the last lesson that I observed, I must say I was very interested in how you had actually organised that lesson. It was, if you remember, it was a mystery.
Yes.
And the children were obviously given the task of trying to somehow or other discover who was the likely murderer. Now, you used timelines for that, and I must say that was very good indeed. And whenever I was circulating around the class, the children were very clearly using that to help them work out the whole progress of the possible crime. So that was excellent. What other approaches have you used?
Well, we felt it was important to consult with the maths department because we wanted to make sure that we were in line with what they were doing in class. We didn't want to be asking a child in year 8, for example, to be doing something that they maybe didn't do in maths until year 9. So that was important for us.
That I agree, that is vital in actual fact, because one of the things, of course, that we talked about even in the Baker Day, especially when we were talking about the whole area of numeracy and literacy, is that departments need to know when the maths department are doing graphs, for example. The science department will need to know that. The geography department needs to know when children are likely to meet coordinates. So the consulting with the maths department, I think, is vital in that situation. So that was really useful. What other plans might you have now that you've managed to do that for next year, for example?
We have looked both at non-fiction and fiction across our subject. And we found that non-fiction lent itself quite easily to the use of mathematics, and we have in fact purchased some new texts next year which will complement that work. The fiction aspect we found a little more difficult, and we took a team approach to that. The members of our staff within the department took a popular text each, and we worked through that with our classes and highlighted opportunities to use maths. So we've built up quite a good resource file, and we would hope to continue next year to add to that.
Excellent. Obviously, you had spoken to me about the purchase of additional materials, and I think I was extremely generous, I must say, in relation to that. But still, obviously, you did require some additional funding beyond your normal requisition, and that's important. So I'm very happy with that. That's excellent. Can we move on then to the second of the two objectives? The second of the two objectives, obviously for the department, which was to try and examine the whole area of the literacy scores and the baseline tests, and to raise the significant figures there. Now at the beginning of the year, you set yourself some targets, some extremely challenging targets in some particular situations, and obviously you've had an opportunity to analyse it. What has that analysis actually shown you?
Well, we found that an overall analysis of the test results was very pleasing, that we had, I agree with you, the targets we set were fairly ambitious, but we had actually met those targets, and in some cases we had surpassed them.
Yes, I noticed that in actual fact. I noticed that there was one class, 9Y, and unfortunately that was one class who maybe didn't fully reach the target that you set.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure there's a good explanation for that.
That class was taught by a series of substitute teachers this year, and I think that has had a direct impact on their learning. I was disappointed with the scores.
Yeah. Are you doing anything to address that particular problem?
Yes, it's really a timetabling issue for me now, with timetables being looked at now at this time of year for next year. Well, I had a closer look at the class results and discovered that the parallel class to the one that we were disappointed with had actually made significantly.
Yes, I noticed that actually, yes.
And I felt that it would be worthwhile putting the teacher of that group with the class that's causing concern, because that particular teacher is fairly experienced.
Yes, so that's useful from that point of view. Can I move maybe on to the general scores first of all, just to say that how pleased I was that the overall literacy scores had actually increased by the targets that we set. And as you've said, they were fairly challenging as far as that whole matter was concerned. Now, I was pleased about that, and I must say, I have to compliment you on the work that you've been doing to try and promote literacy across the whole subject areas. So that has been very good indeed this year, so well done. Can I just bring you to your own classes, and I know you're too modest to actually focus on your own classes, but your own classes exceeded especially the baseline test of 10 plus. I was really delighted to see that. That class actually exceeded that score by 13 points. How did you manage it?
Well, first of all, I'd say that the class was new to me this year.
Yes.
And in our English department, we take an open-ended approach to our students. And we do that deliberately to allow flexibility for each teacher to plan accordingly. I'm a great believer in good quality literature being the basis for promoting good literacy skills. And this year we managed to acquire several new texts, which I have been able to trial with that particular class. And they have succeeded in engaging the children very much so in the work that we've been doing. And I think it's important to keep our fiction vital and new and interesting for the pupils that we have.
Was that one of the classes that I observed? I think it maybe was, and yes. And I must say I was very impressed with the engagement of the children in the lesson. All of them were very focused, and that was obvious from the way that you'd been preparing them. It's clear. So as far as the key stage or the baseline tests are concerned, I think we're very happy with those scores, and that's something that we're obviously going to have to try and maintain. Yeah. One of the things about the baseline testing, which maybe, whenever we talked about this in August, I think we all agreed that possibly we sort of had just taken our eye off the ball ever so slightly as far as that was concerned. And now we've looked a wee bit closer, and all teachers across the whole of the subject areas are really focusing in a little bit more.
Yes. I think it's important that staff realise that the promotion of literacy is a global responsibility. It's not just something that's done by the English department alone, and that they can do a lot to support the work that we are doing.
Yeah, I agree with that in actual fact, and I suppose in some ways the work that you've been doing in literacy and the work then that you've also been trying to promote in numeracy is really very, very closely allied to what we will probably all have to face in the next year, because clearly we'll be thinking about the revised curriculum in 2007, and we'll be looking at ways of trying to ensure that communication, the use of mathematics and ICT are incorporated across all subject areas. So that's maybe one thing that just want you to think about possibly for next year. The whole area of assessment is going to become very important, and your subject as mathematics, as ICT, will always have to be assessed within other subject areas. So from your point of view, it might be worth starting to think about how you might assess subject like mathematics or even ICT. Now, I know that your department have been involved in ICT for many years now, and actually you do produce little bits and pieces of material for the Key Stage 3 ICT accreditation. So from that point of view, that's good. Can we then just finally here move on to consider objective number 3? Objective number 3 was obviously your own professional development issue, and when we talked last, I suppose it was September, you said to me that you were a little bit concerned about the procedures that presently exist in the English department for monitoring the work, and you were anxious to see maybe if there was some way that you could actually go along to a course. I know you have actually been on a course. How did you find that course? Was it useful?
It was useful for a number of reasons. It came very early in the year. It was in October and November,
Absolutely.
which I think was very important because I just started out in September as a head of department.
Yeah.
And although I had experience being the Learning Centre coordinator and SENCO, this was a very different challenge for me when I was learning English. I also found it useful to meet with other new heads of English because it meant we were able to chat together and discuss our fears and our concerns and maybe share ideas
But that is one of the most useful things about courses, do you not find? That you go on a course, you meet somebody who's in exactly the same position as you, and you can talk over some of the things that you're doing, and you learn so much from them. So that really is very, very important. In terms of the monitoring, what new measures have you actually introduced as a result of the course?
We've introduced a monthly homework record sheet, which all members of the department complete on a monthly basis. This records the tasks that the children are set and the dates that they're expected to hand those homeworks in.
That's homework is one of the issues, obviously. Principal of the school sometimes gets telephone calls from parents telling us that maybe the homeworks haven't been set as much as the parents expect. Now, one of the things that I've always found is whenever you do get a complaint and you start to look at the homework diaries of children, some of the children are a bit slack about that. Is there anything that you're doing about that?
Yes, we felt that the homework diary was really not a reliable record for homeworks that were being set.
I can understand that.
We have asked our children to record their homeworks at the back of their English homework book.
Right.
So it means that we have our own record of what they've been doing in English as far as homework is concerned. And we can see at a glance right from September right through to June how many homeworks have actually been set.
That's been really useful, I must say, because obviously the monitoring that you've been doing through that homework sheet has actually now been introduced right across a number of subject areas. So that has been very helpful, I have to say, in relation to that. What about other methods that you've been using to monitor the work of other people?
I've carried out books on a monthly basis, which means gathering in a selection of classwork books and homework books. So that means that I can see what is actually going on in the classroom on a day-to-day basis.
Good. Anything additional that you've introduced beyond that?
Yes, we have extended our internal standardisation system, which we were already using at Key Stage 4 for coursework.
Yeah.
So we've now extended that to include Key Stage 3. This means that we gather pieces of work together once an assignment or an assessment's been completed and circulate samples of work across the department. And it also helps teachers to standardise their marking as well.
Yeah, I would imagine that it gives people a bit more confidence as well within the department.
It does. It means that, particularly with less experienced staff, they're getting feedback as to how accurate their assessment is.
Yeah. I know, as well as obviously having one or two experienced members of staff in your department, you've also had a newly qualified teacher. Do you want to tell me anything about the classroom observation that you were involved with
Yes,
in the case of that?
It was the first time as a head of department that I've had to do that, and I think through my own experience in PRSD, it made me more sympathetic to the whole situation of someone coming into the room to observe you teach. Though I would have to say that as a newly qualified teacher, he was coming from a culture where he was used to being observed.
Absolutely.
And he actually seemed less nervous about the process than I was.
There's nothing unusual about that.
He also was able to provide me with a pro forma before I went in to do the observation, which I found very useful in actually focusing me on the specific areas that I needed to look at when I was teaching.
Well, one of the things, as you know, that we're now in a position to do, especially in the PRSD scheme, is this present year, the Vice Principal John and myself have been the main reviewers. Now, we're keen to involve other people in the review procedures, and obviously as the head of the English department we would like to involve you in it. Are you happy and content to do that next year?
Yes, having come through the scheme now as someone who's being reviewed, I think it's given me perhaps an insight into the fears and apprehensions that staff would have.
Yeah.
And with the right training, I would be happy to take on.
Well, as you know, one of the things that we're intending to do early in the new term is to have an in-service training session for each of those reviewers. It's so important that we get that consistency, that everybody is actually looking for the same things. Now, as you know, we've developed a pro forma for teacher observation, which we've been using now for a year, and it has been very, very important and useful to us. I find it quite useful. I have to say, incidentally, one of the things that I've enjoyed most about our involvement as a reviewer in PRSD is that I've enjoyed going into the classrooms and seeing lessons, and I think that there is a lot to be said about that from the point of view of the reviewer, that you go into a classroom and you learn an awful lot, and you're encouraged as well by what you see. So I'm delighted with the progress that you've made in relation to the 3 objectives that you set for yourself. Without question, you've managed to achieve all 3, and indeed you've exceeded some of the targets that you set. So one of the big tasks for us now is to reaffirm the objectives and then to set new ones for the new academic year. So thanks very much, and we'll discuss that at another date.